I can exist in two worlds. Like I can be a nerd and I can still, even though I don't like to, go outside and be amongst other people, and I can I can still make the connection. Maybe I would much rather stay indoors, but um where there aren't any people. But I I think that's interesting that you thought it took a couple of videos to get me. I wasn't really trying to do anything to get, but that's interesting that that was your response.
Yeah, that was my experience. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think that's a bad thing, though. I think
No,
no,
no.
no, no. It's just like to get there. There's something better here, or there's something more, and I got to understand.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a. My wife is tired of hearing me after the last 25 years. There was a scene, maybe you've seen it, Jess, probably late 90s film, The Barfly, Mickey Rourke and Faye Dunaway.
Oh, I I never saw that film, but
It's not a happy film, but there's one scene in it that's just really poignant, and I remember it to this day. So the two of them are Brian's talking about nerds, geeks, right? So it's kind of like outcast. These people are outcast for different reasons, which we won't get into, but they're together. They've been drawn together. Um, they enjoy each other's company, and they're just kind of hanging out and they're doing their thing. And Mickey Rourke uh, says to Faye Dunaway, um, he says, no, I think actually she's driving it, and she says, "Do you like people?" And he stops and he thinks about it. And he's like, "No, I don't really like people that much." And he's like, "Do you like people?" And then she's like, "Well, I just seem to feel better when they're not around." And it was just such a great line, I mean, it just spoke, it spoke so much, and I don't dislike people, but I just know I feel better when they're not around. So it's kind of like what you were speaking to.
Yeah, that is a great line. And yet here I'm willing to go cross country and drive up and down the state of California and Oregon looking for books for people. So at some level, I must actually like, maybe it's the nerd connection, my fellow nerd. I can speak nerd, I understand nerd. I'm happy to have the dialogue with other people that have my interests, because uh, before 2014, I really didn't have anybody that shared my interest with me as an adult. I mean, as a kid I did, but not as an adult.
Yeah.
So at some point, at some level, now that I think about what you just said about that movie, I actually must I must like some people if I'm going to be willing to go to any lengths to, find them a book or put on a show and talk to them in the chat.
But it's
Maybe.
on your terms. It's on your terms. It's not like most people want to get together and socialize and like, let's get all in a room and say, hey, Barbie, and have a dance party and do the whole thing. That's not your way of interacting.
Well, that's a very good point. Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
really good
So
point.
you were interacting with people in like this kind of other way, which you could give, and so it's not like none of us don't like people, but it's just like we may choose to interact in a more positive way, in a different way that we can.
Wow. What are you, like a philosopher? You're pretty
No, Omar said I'm from the future.
Yeah.
The
From
first
the
time we had
future.
him on, he's like, "Are you from the future?"
The future.
Yeah. I think, Jess, as Scott said, and I talked about earlier, I think after you say that, Scott, whatever repels people from us brings us together, like connects us.
There's another good observation.
Because Scott is not like the most warm and fuzzy person. You have to kind of like get him, and then it's like all good. And I could be more of a social butterfly, but to really connect to people, especially who I really am, when I'm behind closed doors reading comics and like frothing at the mouth is like Batman punches somebody, you know what I'm saying? And there's no one to share that with. So it's like whatever repels us from people, whatever people find in us that they misunderstand, that's what brings us together with each other. So
Well, that's a good observation too, because I went to Heroes Con this year for the first time with my wife, who actually
wow, Patty went.
she did. Yeah. What? You haven't watched my Heroes Con vid, Brian? I did a
I don't
whole
think so, dude. How long ago was it?
when was Heroes Con? I think at the beginning of June.
All right, I'll definitely go back and check it for real.
She not only
Wow.
went, she drove the whole idea.
What?
It was a Sunday before Heroes Con, and I said something about Charlotte, North Carolina. There's a cool convention, and we have old friends that we hadn't seen in a while that live down there. And I said, um, you know, it, and she said, what happens at a convention like that? And so I said, well, this one's more creator centric. There's not much cosplay, there's no Hollywood movie stars and stuff. It's just creators sitting at tables, and they interact with fans and sign things for them. And she said, that actually sounds cool. I've seen lots of I've seen the video part of your life. I've been in comic book stores with you, but I haven't really seen going to conventions, because a lot of times I'll go to Baltimore because it's so close. And so she said, let's just go. We're both retired. It's 6 hours away. Debbie and Jay are there. We can have dinner with them. Let's just go and have fun. Let's just do
Cool.
something spontaneous. And I was like, you want to do what now? I didn't
Who are
want to
you?
go, and now you want to go?
That's awesome.
Yeah, but my actual point in this was that I enjoyed being down there. There was with all the people. I mean, it was people-y. It wasn't crowded. But it's organized really well so that you never feel crowded. There's always plenty of space in the aisles. But I enjoyed, some people recognized me, and that was really cool to be recognized.
That's awesome, dude.
Public.
That's awesome.
And I even made friends with a guy who I nicknamed Maniac Matt.
Cool.
And hung out with him a little bit. And I liked being around those people. Now you put my wife's at her 50th high school reunion right now. She knew not to even ask me.
Yeah.
I never even had to say no, because she didn't ask me, because she knew in a room full of 100 strangers where she was the only one I knew, no way. I would rather be 3,000 people in Charlotte, North Carolina that all spoke comics than be in a small party where I had to make some kind of small talk. Yay.
Right. Get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
Get it. So my wife likes to talk about the scale of introvert and extrovert. And so we're probably much more leaning toward the introvert side of things. But if there's something to talk about, well, then that can overcome that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife calls me an introverted extrovert.
Yes.
I have to I'm shy, but as soon as I get to know you better, then my sort of goofy extroverted personality can come out. What you see on the air is what I am like. Just try to make fun of everything, starting with myself. And I mean, I laugh at myself, I laugh at everything else. And so I'm always making jokes and goofing around, but it takes me a while to warm up to people. So, I don't know. I'm sort of a little bit of both. So, and I imagine a lot of people are, although we have friends that, a couple of them are just extroverts, and my wife's an extrovert. They can make conversations with the person sitting. I guarantee you, my wife made conversation with the person sitting next to him on that plane up to where your reunion is today. She talked to that person. Whereas I would not even look over at the other person. I would just be slumped down in my
I'm not
chair.
even sure what they look like. I think there was a person there.
Yeah, as far as I know, the plane was empty.
Brian would talk to everyone on the plane. He'd get
Yeah.
up and he'd mingle and he'd be like, "Hey, so like, what do you do for work?"
Yeah.
Really, that's amazing.
Yeah, but my most comfortable thing, Jess, is this setting. Like if you gave me a choice of, being a speaker at an engagement or being three guys on YouTube talking about comics, I would much rather sit here and do that.
Oh, well, yeah. I
And
would much rather too.
yeah, my favorite thing to do is just quietly read my comics, my graphic novels. That's like my ultimate favorite thing. When I'm off from work and I have time, like I can just sit still and not be bothered. It's my favorite thing in the whole wide world. So
I agree with that. It's so fun. It is
yeah,
just such a fun hobby.
it is, and a lot of people don't get it. Like, I'll be like, "Oh, well, we have a YouTube channel. What do you talk about? Comics? Oh, comics? And some people think it's like movies. Like, oh, I know the MCU. When I'm like, no, this is like hardcore, like geek.
Comics.
Yeah,
Comics.
comics. Yeah, 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 yeah. So
I had that conversation yesterday, and it was like super awkward. Eh, You have a YouTube channel? Like, what do you talk about? Vintage comics, and it was like all the air just got sucked out of the. Oh dear.
Yeah. Huh. It's easily the best hobby because not only do we get the whatever it is, the dopamine, serotonin, whatever the hit is
Right.
from finding what we've been looking for forever, but then we get to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And where you can't do that with coins, you can't do that with stamps.
Good point.
Like you don't get to read. We get to hunt these things down, these treasures down, boom, and we get to read them. And we get to read them over and over again if we want to.
That's a super good point. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's
speaking
true.
of finding treasure, my very first memory that I have where I actually found something and it blew me away. I was like maybe 20 years old. And there's a local mall here. It's a big mall, two-story mall. And there was an FYE in there. And I went in there for something else. And at the time, I had never read all of No Man's Land. When No Man's Land first came out, I was subscribing to DC, but the way the comics would come in the mail, they would just be like completely like shot, right? Like bent and creased and all
Did they
this,
still
right?
fold it in half, or was that like
Folded in half, bent. It was almost like a paper that turned into a transformer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I stopped collecting, and then at that time, trades weren't a big thing. This is probably just when they started doing that, especially for DC. They're slow on that.
yeah.
So I go into the FYE and I see on the other side of this gondola, it was No Man's Land trade paperback 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I freaked out. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God. And I got all 5 volumes and I read them so many times up until like the omnibus came out like last year or the year before.
Oh yeah.
Because back then, like Amazon wasn't a thing, or they were just starting up,
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, you can go on eBay, you could find something, you can go on Amazon. Somebody's always selling something you're looking for,
Yeah.
Whereas, like you said, back then, the hunt was on because, you go to especially like when Superman died, like my comic store was sold out. There were others that were completely sold out. People had to travel around for that stuff. Whereas now you can just be like, oh, I want a copy of that,
I was on NBC, the local NBC news channel, Channel 4, for that.
Awesome.
Back, what was that, 1994?
Yeah, 93, 94.
93, 94. And I was in this teeny little comic shop in Alexandria. And Washington, D.C. is a solid half an hour away. I have no idea why WRC was out there. Unless it was CBS, I can't remember who it was, but they came into the store. The store was about as big as my desk, They came into the store with their camera and they were like, what do you think of the death of Superman? And I said, well, how do you kill a fictional character? And they were like, what do you mean? And I said, do you really think they're killing Superman? He's $1 billion a year industry. This is back in 94. Did he makes $1 billion a year? They're not killing Superman. This is a cool story, but they're not killing him.
Right.
And I saw it on the news that night. My wife was pretty excited to see that. She's like, wow, you made a good point. I'm like, I'm surprised they left it in. I was constantly.
That's super cool. That's super cool. Speaking of 94, so I've got a comic book collector here from July of 94. How much do you think a Hulk, what is it? With
181?
Yeah, how much do you think a Hulk 181 in high grade was in 1994?
God, this is going to be painful. 30 years ago.
So of course it's not graded, but high grade. So I'm going to assume what, like 7 to 8.5, something like that.
Okay. I'll say $25.
Actually higher.
Oh,
90.
90.
$90 in 1994. How much do you think an ungraded or not slabbed same issue is according to cover price right now?
Right now.
Of 181?
Yeah.
Not slabbed.
Not slab, but
Not slab.
7 to 8.5 raw.
Okay. I was just looking at those prices. So within the past year, I know that they've come down since the peak in 21. 4,000.
54.
5,400.
5,400 according to cover price. Last sale was August 12th for 5,900. Fair market value is 54. What do you think about that appreciation from $90 to $5,400?
Fortunately, there's an investor in me because 2014 is when I started realizing that my wife, who's 4 years older than I was going to have, when she went on Medicare, I was going to get, and she was retired, I was going to get stuck with 4 years of private health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So I got I had things like The Death of Gwen Stacy, Death of Green Goblin. I had tons of really, really, really good books.
Mm-hmm.
And a ton of great Spideys. I mean, I had a bunch of really good books, but I also, wait, why am I going off on this tangent? Oh, what do I think of that? Because because this is what I would tell people that I'm investing in. I would say I have a House of Secrets 92 here, and I have the first Swamp Thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I paid for them? I paid 20 cents a piece for them. Do you know what I just sold them for? I sold them each for $2,000.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that gave them a different appreciation for what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I had to start making money because back then I thought private health insurance was expensive. The brutal reality of it here is, I'm in my last few months of private health insurance.
Worse.
It is savage how much it costs, and I don't know this. I was in the stock market for a long time. I specialized in small banks, but our accountant and the team of investors that surrounded him said, you're making more money in comic books than we can make in the stock market. Why don't you turn your this is around 2014. Why don't you turn your investments over to us? We'll try and get you 5 to 8%, and you go out and get that 30% that you've per year that you've quoted us. And if you don't think I was floating off the ground when I left that meeting, and I devoted my wife was like, "You're the happiest I've ever seen you." I was like, our accountant just gave us the green light to start investing in comics, and that's what I did.
Yes.
That's very
You,
cool.
I'll tell you, you've helped me with that. You and Omar. Like the other day was last week, the Omni Bros. You were like, you need. You were very emphatic in the fact that the Secret Warriors. You were like, yeah, sold out. This book's going to be sold out again. So I bought it, and then the Black Cat one too. You mentioned is going to be sold out, but you were super emphatic on the Secret Warriors.
Yeah, I don't think that I thought Black Cat was going to sell out. Um I was surprised at how fast Immortal Hulk sold out. Um I don't but you're right. There was one other book that we that that we said was going to sell out. Secret Warriors, I thought, because there was such pent up demand for.
Mhm.
um what other book? It was just,
I swore you said the Black Cat one because that's why I bought it. Because
well,
otherwise, I have
I wanted
no
people to
interest.
read. I wanted people to read that.
Oh, maybe I missed.
I did 2 videos on why you should buy it. Okay, I did 2 videos on why you should buy it and read it because it's so awesome. The writing's awesome and the art is beautiful. It's by Jed McKay, and I think that they stuck him on Black Cat, and he wrote the hell out of that, and that's why he's getting all the big books now. I'm trying to look at my collection and see what book we said was going to sell out really fast. Well, I can already tell you when Rom comes out, Rom is going to sell out unless they print 40,000 copies of it. From 3 of the 4 covers are going to be gone within a couple days. There's
All
so
right,
much.
thank you for telling me that.
That I um I don't know Rom, so I would not be a buyer. There's going to be even more demand for Micronauts from what I'm hearing. I don't know anything about Micronauts or Rom. I'm
You're
just,
speaking. You're speaking Scott's language. He loves the Micronauts.
where did he just go?
I don't know, but his he's still here because his camera
Oh,
is.
okay. Well, if he wants those books and he wants a particular cover, he better jump on them lickety split, because the what I'm hearing is there's so many kids that loved those comics, and the toys are just going to jump on this as soon as it comes out. Now that the fact that there's 4 covers means there's going to be a lot of them, but I think it's going to get absorbed by the market. Really, I think if somebody really wants Rom and Micronauts, I think it's going to pull other, not just comic collectors. I think toy collectors that loved it. I think it's going to pull other people in. You know, not in thousands, but hundreds and hundreds of people will want this book. So the only reason I'm saying I'm not saying to invest in it. I'm just saying if you want to own it, you better be right on top of it to buy it.
Well, that's another thing that you do that I pay a lot of attention to is like, oh, get this book because it's going to sell out. And so even if I don't have an interest, like say in ROM or Micronauts, I'll buy those off your suggestion so that I have them because I've had a couple of instances where I needed some quick extra money,
Uh-huh.
and I had books that I flipped on eBay
Yeah.
that were sitting in my collection that I meant to read. I just haven't read them yet, and I'm way behind. So like Uncanny X-Men Volume 2, I sold for like 3.5 times what I paid for it. Batman Arkham, I got like 2 times what I paid for it. I just sent out, I don't know what happened, but like 2 years ago, the Nightwing omnibus from New 52,
Oh
I,
yeah.
the
I
Prince of
have it on the
Gotham.
floor because yeah.
So I paid $57 for that on Amazon, brand new in the wrapper, and I flipped it today for $200. So
Nice.
when you're saying things about like Secret Warriors and whatnot, I'm paying attention for that. It's another huge help. That
Okay, just so you know, that's not why I'm saying it. But if that's what
no,
you're leaning from it, that's cool with me. But
that's yeah.
I would never be one to say this is what you should invest in, because
Sure.
there's always the danger of reprints. But if that's what you're getting from it, then
That is
that's fine
like
with
the Secret Warriors one. I remember you mentioning that, and I remember even hearing like Omar say like, "Wow, that's a reprint, and it hasn't been reprinted in years." And then you were more emphatic about it, so I picked that one up. And then like the Spider-Man 2099, I have no interest in that story, but Omar hyped it up, and I think you might have even mentioned it. And so I sold that for almost twice what I paid for it recently.
I felt like 2099 might sell out. And I know I said Savage Avengers was going to sell out.
That's another one that you mentioned with that white cover, the white background. So I bought that for that reason specifically.
Oh,
And
that
then,
I think that's fine, but I knew that Savage Avengers was going to sell out because Titan doesn't have the rights to the team,
Conan.
and it's never going to get, not never. I mean, the rights could always go back to Marvel at some point, but for the next couple of years, you're not going to be able to read that Savage Avengers story. I don't even know if it's on Marvel Unlimited. I think it might have to have been pulled because of Conan.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that I cross-referenced, Jess, when you mentioned books like Super Sons, for instance, the reprint. I go on Organic Price Books, they show you how many people have it in their wish list. So
Oh,
like
I didn't know there was a feature.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an
yeah.
interesting. That's interesting. That's a valuable tool.
so when I looked at like Secret Warriors and you mentioned it, like I think over 100 and something people had Secret Warriors in their wish list. So I was like, all right, well, I'm definitely picking that one up. And then Super Sons had almost 100 people, because most people have like maybe 15 or 20, but even Black Cat was up to like 40 on the wish list.
Oh, good.
So, like
Okay.
that's another thing that I cross-reference, and it's
Oh,
like, man,
interesting.
like Jess really knows his stuff.
I sometimes I can figure it out. I feel like we made a call recently on Omni Bros on uh something that was going to sell out, but it must have been Immortal Hulk. Um
God,
I
did you hear Jess when he talked about the Micronauts and Rom?
No, unfortunately, I had to step away. I didn't want to interrupt, but I was very curious. I heard the tail end.
Go ahead. What you said, Jess,
oh
about
well,
Micronauts and Rom, the Omnis.
yeah, Rom's going to get an Omni, I think, at the beginning of next year.
Mhm.
And I know Micronauts is also getting an Omni. Now I know nothing about ROM or Micronauts because that was I was way before their time.
Sure.
And there's going to be 4 covers for ROM, and I
Mhm.
think at least 3 out of the 4 are going to sell out. There's a house ad cover that looks cool that I would get, but I don't think it's the one most people are going to want. But there's so much pent up demand that I would love to see about it. Now that you've told me about that feature on OPB,
Mhm.
I would love to see how many people have it on their wish list when it goes up for pre-order. If it's not already up for pre-order, I don't know.
One of the covers is a Buscema cover. I think it's Buscema with the X-Men, right? Wolverine. Is that the one that you're thinking about?
Um, there's is that the house ad one? It
I don't
looks
know
like
what you
a
mean
house
by
ad
that.
for Rom. It's actually when I say house ad, it's like an advertise. I feel like it's an advertisement. Well, I mean, a house ad is in a comic where they will say, Rom Space Knight, issue 1, and have art for it and say pick it up at your retailers. So they'll have little.
Okay, no. So it wasn't actually a cover that was printed. It wasn't one of the issue covers. It was a separate marketing cover, is what you're saying. And I think I did see that because there was like issue number 1 is one of the covers. Issue number 4, 5, or 7 with Wolverine was another cover. One of the other ones was a cover, and I think the 4th one that I saw on Organic Price Books is the one that you're talking about because I hadn't seen it. So that was the marketing cover. And you think that's going to be hot?
I do. My gut tells me the marketing one is going to appeal to people the least. If I was a ROM fan, that's what I'd want the most because it's the most unusual cover.
Right.
But I think there's so much pent up demand. I mean, that's all people have been asking for the past 10 years was Marvel to get the license for ROM. And
Well,
now they
here,
got it. They want them, and Micronauts has already been solicited. So I mean, people have seen the solicits for it, and that's even bigger than ROM, according to people who know ROM and Micronauts. So the only reason I'm saying this, and Brian, you take from it what you want,
yes.
but I'm saying if you want these books, you better either pre-order it or buy it the minute they go on sale wherever you get your books.
Right.
Those things are going to be scarce really fast.
I don't think Micronauts is available yet. ROM is available
Oh, it is for
So-
pre-order?
for pre-order. Yes.
So OPB, Organic Price Books, has ROM for pre-order, not Micronauts yet, but Amazon has Micronauts right
Oh,
now.
they do?
Yeah, but it's just one cover and it's 112, but you know, the price will come down. So on Organic Price Books, they have 4 covers for ROM. They have the one with Miller, that's got 10 on the wish list. The one with Buscema has 10. The one with Perez has 8 in the wish list, and the one for the Miller X-Men has 12 right now on Organic Price
I
Books.
think those numbers are going to go up the closer you get to its release date.
Yeah, it's
I
the
do
release right now. The release date right now, who knows if it'll change, is
Oh.
the 24th of January.
Okay, so we're still a few months out from that.
So if I was to buy one of those, or if your suggestion, I would probably go with the X-Men one, just because I feel
Because that's like a double dipper. You know, you're crossing over on different levels. Yeah.
Yeah, the toy collectors and the kids who grew up reading it, and the
X-Men. Yeah.
exactly. And when you say I suggested it, I'm only suggesting for the reader
We get it. We get it.
I want to make sure, Brian, that I'm represented right, because I'm not suggesting anybody invest in these things. But if you want it to own it, then you better be there the day it goes on sale.
The way I'm playing it is I'm going in on the singles. I just bought I had a bunch, but I bought the entire run of ROM and the entire run of Micronauts. And I'm going that way because I feel like it's going to create an awareness of these things for a younger generation that hasn't been exposed. And then they were going to want to go back and get the originals. So that's where I'm going.
Okay. And how many issues did both of those go to?
Micronauts was less. I want to say the first run was 1 through 59 plus a 4-issue limited, 2 annuals. And I want to say ROM was 76 or 75 plus some annuals and a little sprinkling of other stuff.
That's a solid run.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot. That is a solid run. That's a lot of issues.
When I was buying off the rack, it wasn't a spinner rack, but it was a newsroom, and they came out. Both of those issues came out with a number 1. She-Hulk came out with a number 1. Spider-Woman came out with number 1s. Star Wars, I missed number 1. My first was number 3, but that was like the heyday for my buying kid, which was super fun. It was a great time to be able to buy things. X-Men, the Dark Phoenix cycle was happening.
Nice.
So it was cool.
That's really exciting.
It was.
So the Micronauts Omni says it collects 1 through 29 and annuals 1 and 2, and it's supposed to come out in April.
I see that here. The fun thing is, it's interesting. So people are dialed into this. I'm looking at Amazon, and you know how they frequently bought together. Oh, well, if you want Micronauts, you probably want ROM too. So buy them both together for $225.
Yeah.
There you go.
So they know. They know.
I think those two have been the most requested on Very Fine's list for years. Even, I mean, I was hearing about that back in 2015, how much people wanted a ROM or the Micronauts omnibus. So, and it sounds like they're going to get multiple ones. The first one's going to sell out. So
the ROM 1 omnibus is 1 through 29, I think. So you've got at least 3 omnibuses out of that. the way that they're going to do it. And then you get at least 2 Micronauts probably. Although maybe they'll mix because the Micronauts had volumes. I don't know much about. I'm less interested in ROM, but the Micronauts had later volumes, so, or series that came out. I was surprised they killed it in like 82 or 83 or 84, and then they relaunched it within like a year and a half. It's like, why did you kill it if you're going to relaunch it that much more quickly? I thought that was really strange.
Yeah,
And the second one had a fairly good run too. It was like 2 to 3 years.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably stick that in an omnibus format then too.
Yeah. And the art was looked to be equally as, at least the cover art looked to be equally as good. So yeah, I'm jazzed. I'm totally jazzed about the Micronauts.
So Jess, as you mentioned, the investment, like how comics and whatnot is crushing the stock market. Scott and I have talked about that too. Like, hey, we should, if we're going to try and invest in something, we should invest in comics and these omnis that we keep hearing about. So,
well, I will say from a floppy graded floppy perspective, we're at the bottom now of what was a very high top in late 21. 22 is terrible. The first part of 23 has been terrible. If I will just say this, if I had the money now, this is when I would swoop in and start picking up some keys in high grade that I could afford to salt away for the next 10 or 15 years. I don't necessarily have the dosh for that right now since I have been all in earlier. But if I had, I mean, we're at some serious, we were at a really high I'm not sure when the top of the comic book market was. I maybe the beginning of 2022 or somewhere in there, because
I think I heard one person say like late to mid spring
of 2022.
Yeah,
that sounds right. And we've just been cratering down. And I feel like we've set a floor in here, just like the stock market does. You can't go up that high without having something come back down. And this, if you do your homework, I think as an investor, I don't know about omnis, but I will say as an investor in comic books, if I had the dosh, I would be looking seriously at picking stuff up here.
Yeah.
Last year I picked up year one, the first issue, autographed by Miller.
Oh, cool.
I got a good deal on that. And then I also got a pretty good deal on Dark Knight Returns, first print, signed by Miller and Jansen.
Ooh.
So those are in my, those are my, what do you call them? My personal whales for comics, at least.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, thank you. Anything like that goes back, I'm like, man, I don't have the liquidity of assets to go after those, because it would be awesome to, but the omnis, like I was telling you, like just being able to flip those in fast order has been pretty cool for me.
Have you had any more interest expressed in your Gal Gadot
Wonder
Woman? No.
Well, I got like 2 more watchers, but
no, but no active.
Right.
Okay, so one last, let's play the guessing game. Giant Size X-Men #1, 1994. What do you think? In high grade, but again, not graded.
Okay, that is when
the first appearance of the new X-Men.
Yeah, with Wolverine on the cover.
And Colossus, but Wolverine, yes.
Oh yeah, I can see it. If 181 was 90, wait, it was 90?
Yes.
Yeah, 181. I don't know that X-Men, I'm going to say 50.
Well, interestingly enough, 210.
210. Wow, I don't know anything.
No. It's it's hard, Okay, but I think the thing that's more interesting, all right, fast forward to 2023, August 24. What do you think we're talking now?
Well, I know that one's come down hard from the peak, because that's what I've been eyeing kind of myself for a 94. Oh gosh, I don't know that one as well as I do 181. Um, I can't even you're talking
That's
about
fine.
8.0 raw.
Say again.
You're talking about X-Men 94 in like an 8.0
Yeah,
raw.
yeah, yeah, yes, yeah.
All right, let me see if I can guess this. X-Men raw, but Wolverine just sold for 5,900 raw.
This is why this is interesting to me.
I think Wolverine's I think 181 is more popular right now than 94, although I guessed that earlier. I'll say 3,500.
Oh, dude, you're almost right on it. 38.
Wow.
Wow.
38 and 7, 8.5.
Yeah.
But so to me, I think it's interesting. But so raw, like we said, 7,708.5, 3,800, but slabbed is way higher.
Yeah.
But the thing that's interesting is there's been no recorded online sales of a 9.8 slab since January.
9.8.
9.8.
Well, that's
According,
crazy.
30, 35,000.
How about like a lesser grade, like a 9.0? When's the
9.6 sold about 2 weeks ago for 11 grand. And 9.4 sold within the same time frame at 7 grand. But
Okay.
the raw stuff has been selling like daily.
Oh, okay. Raw stuff has been saved, but slabs
Are
have
not
slowed
moving
down,
that much.
like
In
drastically.
the high end slabs, we haven't had a high end slab recorded on here in 7 months.
And have Wolverine 181s been slabbed?
Let me go back. Let me go back. Yeah.
Yeah, have the
I, s-
slabs been moving?
I saw a high-end collector, a guy who has a brokerage for the auctions on Swaggle YouTube, and he bought a Hulk 181 9.8,
Whoa.
and he paid $8,000 so many years ago for it, and now it's worth like over 100 grand.
Oh, wow.
I think he said 121,000 on the market through his auction house.
What was that one,
Wow.
Brian? Which
Hulk 181 at
Oh,
980.
okay.
Yeah.
So 181 Hulk, we've sold 398 slabs since the beginning of the year, 69, 78, and 72,000. Last one was June 22nd. 9.6 slabbed, we've sold 4, 24, 21, 19, and 28. 9.4s, we've sold quite a few. We've had like 7 or 8, anywhere from 13, hovering around 13 into $12,000.
There's still more interest in 181 than X-Men 94.
Yes. Yeah. I
This
would think that giant size would be more appealing.
I agree with that. That
Yeah.
would be the one I would go after.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, Jess, know what key? One more that I just picked up, a modern key, is Fallout number 4, the first appearance of
Ultimate
Morales.
Fallout?
Yeah, yeah. It
You bought
was selling.
four?
Yeah, number 4. I got a first print. It was selling. This is like
That
3
thing
months.
crashed really hard.
Well, about 3 months ago, I bought it, and it was selling for like 1,700, and I got it for 1,575. And then I saw a signed copy at 9.8 first print by Bagley and Bendis sold for like almost 2,600 bidding,
Yeah.
as opposed to buy it now. So I sent it into CGC, and CGC they're doing the signing now, but it's Bendis and Bagley, and I'm hoping I could score at least like almost 3,000. So
I approve of that purchase.
thank you, sir.
Highly approve of that purchase because you're
Yeah.
buying that at the bottom. And I think that's something you want to salt away for like 10 years because he's not only is he popular in comics, but he's got his own movie franchise now.
Right. And who knows when he's going to do the live action? That should really kick it.
I don't even know, but yeah, that's what I've been talking with some people about, like what should we get now? And I don't know that I really have the money at this point. Or the waiting time. I don't know that I have a 10 or 15 year point ahead of me, but Ultimate Fallout 4 is a book I would seriously, I think you did a really smart thing getting that book.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, I had seen it online and it was always like ridiculously expensive, but I kept my eye on it, watching it on eBay through the years. I'm talking like 3 years ish since the first movie came out.
But I
And then
think that's smart, because I think you know what the product is, and you get a true understanding of the value and the demand, so you know what you're dealing with, and then you can make a really informed decision, as opposed to just like, oh, well, last month it was here, or 2 months ago it was there, and I got to buy it because now it's up. You have no idea what you're buying, but you just, if you invest into it, yeah.
So we were talking about giant size X-Men. Right?
Yes.
I put that together with X-Men 94 a lot. Like the two of those go together. I would think that if giant size is lagging 181 that much, I would bet 94 probably is too. That might be something I'd look into.
Well, let's see.
Well, if I was me.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I had money.
What do we got here?
Because all it's going to take is Disney making an X-Men movie, and those things are going to shoot back up.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I just don't get the interface on cover price. It's like,
Jesse, what are you reading now that you would suggest?
I just read a great book. We're going to cover it on Batter Days with Taylor this Saturday. Batman the Knight, Knigt.
Is that by Zdarsky?
Yeah, and it's great.
All right, because I've had that in my Amazon cart for 2 weeks. I just noticed it. And yeah, it's gotten like almost 5 stars. And it's kind of it's like the fill-in of like what, like it adds body to his journey before he was Batman or something.
It's his journey right before he became Batman and what he did. I would say it takes elements of Batman Begins and expands greatly on that. It's 10 issues. I got it in standard hardcover because I don't have a problem with standard hardcover anymore. I'm just glad DC's putting anything out. The art is great. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't tell you who the artist is, but it's a name I wouldn't even try and pronounce. But the art is really great, but Zdarsky just makes it so exciting and so interesting. And I don't know how he keeps it fresh, but he kept it really fresh and interesting, because this is, this character's, especially recently since, 85, well, not since 85, but he's had multiple kind of origin stories retold, starting with year one, but a lot of people have attempted that, but this is really, I just read it right away. I sat down with it and I read it. It probably took me 2 hours and I was happy the entire time. I was just zipping right through it and I had a blast reading it. I loved Zdarsky's Failsafe. I haven't got the second one in the mail yet. I can't wait to read it now.
I just got that one in the mail with Ram V's detective run. Have you read that one yet?
That's the next one I want to read. Taylor and I want to read all three of those and do a show on them. I haven't read Ramby's detective yet, but I really, really want to.
I'm halfway through that one, and it's like, again, I read all the hype about it and all this. And usually, you go into something that's hyped that much and it's like, man, it's so good. I was telling Scott before you came on, I was mentioning that book. I said, that's how I want my Batman written. Like he writes my Batman, like the Batman that I want,
Now I'm really excited.
Oh, it's really good. And then they have the
Batman,
backup stories with him.
Brian knows his Batman.
Yeah. And then they also, after every chapter of Batman, they have like this Gordon backup story in it. So like you read the main chapter and then it starts Gordon, and then after Gordon's backup story ends, it goes back to the regular story,
Oh.
and then it repeats that till the end of the book.
Cool.
So
How
yeah,
many issues is in that first book?
I think five. I think
Five. Okay, that sounds right. Yeah, that I should get that in the next couple days. I ordered it late last week.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to finish it. Like he talks, there's like a part, and I was telling Scott, where he throws this guy off a building, and he's got the rope around him, but Batman's up in the corner, small, perspective, and the guy's coming at us like screaming. And Batman's inner monologue is like, I go through and I threaten pain to, all these people and stuff, and then he throws the guy off the building, and like it's like, yeah, like Batman. Yeah.
Ram V's such a good writer. Gosh, I love him.
He did an interview. Have you ever watched Word Balloon on YouTube with John Centris?
No, I remember when Taylor and I interviewed him though.
Oh, really? You did? How long ago?
During the pandemic, we interviewed
okay.
him. We interviewed Greg Rucka.
I watched the Rucka one. The Rucka one was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, Ram V was a delightful guy. We loved him. He was
Mm.
such a nice guy.
Yeah.
And so was Cy Spurrier. He was all our interviews. We did a lot of interviews, but there was one thing with all of them. They were all super nice people, all these creators. I mean,
Yes.
I couldn't even believe Taylor pulled Greg Rucka, and I pulled Mark Waid, so I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
But for those guys I felt like we could talk to all of them for hours. They were
I watched the Wade one and the Rucka one, and I haven't really seen Rucka on too many things, but I really enjoyed his, just from his Batman work and like the Checkmate. I love all that stuff.
Yeah. Have you read Gotham Central?
No, I've had the omnibus for like 3 years, and I keep swearing to get to it.
You've got to read it right away.
Yeah.
I need to reread it. It was so good. Yeah.
But I almost wish Marvel would do something like that with Shield, like within Shield, maybe. Or like do like a Checkmate and Gotham Central combo with Shield.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, Gotham Central was great. And Craig Recko was great, but I don't really watch other YouTube channels because I don't want to get any ideas from any of them, and I don't be influenced by them. Like, I didn't like this or I like that. I just don't want to be influenced by them. So I'm sure, what was it? Word Bubble?
Word Balloon.
Word Balloon. I'm
It's
sure
also a podcast. So do you have an iPhone?
I won't listen to podcasts.
Okay.
Because it's the same thing.
Okay.
I don't think you would be overtly influenced. You have a fairly strong personality and base. It might give you ideas for stuff, but I don't think it would make you change what you do.
Yeah, and actually, and a podcast interview with Ram V is not the same as content. I mean, it's an interview. Actually, maybe I really should listen to it.
Try some, just see.
Yeah, because I'd be interested in what he had to say, because it's 3 years ago that we interviewed him.
Wow.
So and Death of Layla Starr has come out. That was my book of the year last year. So I wonder if he has anything to say about that.
Sure, he probably does.
Say about Detective. Yeah.
I can't feel like you would be like it would tweak or move your dial, as far as your content. So you wanted X-Men 94, right?
Yeah.
All right. So in April of 2022, 66 grand for a 9/8 slab. What do you think it would be? It's been a while since it sold. It hasn't sold in a while. What do you think, like, the last sale might be?
Of a 9/8?
A 9/8.
Gosh, I feel like that's cratered too. I don't know. I wonder if it's been cut in half.
Yeah, you're pretty much on track. So early April of 22, it was at 66 grand. A year prior was at 58 grand. 63. coming up to the last one on record on cover price was November of this past year, 36.
Woo. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's almost been cut in half.
Now a 9.6 sold more recently. A 9.6 sold in this early April of this year, or May rather, 10,000 even. In right around the same time that the 9.8 was 66, the 9.6 was selling in April of 22 at just shy of 13.
And what's it at now? 10?
Now, well, yeah, it was at 10 like almost 4 months ago. There hasn't the higher stuff, as I'm looking at this, the higher level stuff, which is more expensive and which is not maybe necessarily a surprise in this economy, is not moving. Um,
Hmm.
9.4, we had one sell about 2 weeks ago for 3,000. A month before that, 3,000. February, 4,500. So we've sold like 6 this year of 9.4 slabs, and of 9.2 slabs, we're looking at like 9 have sold this year, and the last price in June was at just under $2,000.
Hmm. Okay.
So there seems to be more movement in the in between space. That's not
Yeah.
so pricey.
Yeah. And for the raw copies, you're
Let's
saying,
look at this is slab stuff.
yeah.
So
But I would imagine raw copies are probably half of
yeah, let's take a look here. So
slabs are.
raw, the highest raw we have would be like a 9.6. 2 years ago was at $4,400. A 9 to 9.4 sold. Apparently a 9.2 it was in the end of June for $1,000.
Hmm.
We've sold 3 of those over the course of this year. A 7 to 8.5 most recently sold mid to late May for shy of $900.
Whoa. That sounds like a good price to me.
Well, the prior sale was in April for 1,500.
Oh.
So yeah, someone got a deal. Though that one bounces a lot. So you had 900, 1,500. Someone got a 7, well, a 7.0. So that's not quite the same comparison. The prior 8.0 that sold was $600 in December of last year.
Hmm.
And then
Very interesting. That's a lot of good food for thought.
yeah, this is a fun tool. If you don't have, it's like $60 for the year, and they give you tons of data, and it's just like really interesting. Cover price, COVR.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Jess, have you read the Human Target?
no, I just got the second book and I want to read both of them.
All right, yeah, me too. I was telling Scott because I got both of them recently, and I read the first issue on Hoopla on online,
Hmm.
and it was captivating how the guy has to solve his own murder because he
Yeah.
like steps in for Luthor, and Luthor gets shot, or him as Luthor gets shot, and then he gets
Yeah.
killed. Such a
Um,
great premise.
the other book that I'm excited to well, it's finally finished. It's behind it got behind in release is Dark Knights of Steel by Tom Taylor.
Okay,
The first book was kick ass. It was so good.
okay,
It's it's is Superman, instead of landing in modern times, he landed in medieval times.
wow, okay,
So it's like an Arthurian legend, and uh Batman a lot, or whatever he's called. I haven't read it since for a few months, is like his sworn protector in this sort of Camelotish setting, and it's really well done by Tom Taylor. So I think that issue 12 just came out, and so I would guess the standard hardcover will be out next year sometime, but I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, I
so
should read it on the DC app.
Dark Knights of Steel, when I saw the title, I was like, oh, that must tie into like Dark Knight's metal or something, but it's its own thing.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
its own Elseworlds thing. Yeah.
okay, yeah, I got confused by that then. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have you checked this one out? Batman Fortress.
I just got it.
Very cool. Very
Oh, you
cool.
dig it? Good.
Yeah. The story is interesting. It's very straightforward story, but the art is a little different by Derek Robertson. But
Oh, yeah.
I adjusted, and yeah, it was a neat read. And the end of it, it's like it takes pieces of continuity and then makes its own continuity. So by the end, you're going to be like, "Wow, I didn't see that coming." So
Oh, good. That sounds good
yeah,
to me.
yeah. So
It's always nice when you don't see, wasn't predictable.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I really think is what's great about modern comics is that they're still figuring out how to make these old characters fresh and interesting. And they're still figuring out how to keep us enthralled with these you know these fictional characters. It's really remarkable the time we live in
that's a
compared.
great point, man. That's a great
It
point.
is a good point. Yeah, it's true.
I mean, and kudos to DC and Marvel and Image or anybody for beating the bushes and finding these new writers and giving them a chance. Zdarsky started out as an artist, and who would have thought that he was going to be writing Batman now and killing it on it. And I mean, everything he's written I like and love. And actually, he pisses me off because I hate writers who can also draw really well. Like
Yeah.
Perez pissed me off, even though I love him. But any artist that can also flip it over and then all of a sudden becomes a great writer, that's amazing. That's an amazing talent.
Maybe those two skills are just two sides of the same coin.
Well, Neil Adams didn't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your
Ah, but
root beer review. Yeah.
But maybe in some ways it is. So maybe because it seems like it's not super rare. It doesn't happen every day, but it's also not like
yeah,
total.
you're right. We're seeing. Well, I will say before I slam Neil Adams too much, God rest his soul. Dead Man, he wrote when he was a young man, and he actually was a really good writer.
Wow.
This thing has tons of good Neil Adams art, and he wrote the majority of Dead Man stories while illustrating them. And I read these as a kid, and I actually had completely forgotten that Neil Adams wrote a lot of Dead Man, and it really holds up.
Is that like the entire deal or what in that book?
Uh, it,
I
it
remember I remember him being on the shelf when I was buying, but I kind of stayed away because I was like, I don't know, this looks kind of weird.
yeah, it is. Let me see what the latest issue would be because he definitely doesn't do all of it. 75 cents, June of 86. It goes through 86.
Okay.
He wrote the early stuff in the 60s,
Oh
late
wow.
60s, when
Okay.
the character was created.
So I had a fairly lengthy run then, huh? I mean, there was a lot of material. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's a chunk.
yeah.
Cool.
Jess, have you read the Joker series by Tynion?
No, I heard it's more of a Detective Gordon story.
Dude, it is. I read the first two volumes and I got volume three. It's really good. Like at first I was like, what do I care about this? But the way they do it, it's like, wow, like it's a really cool story off the beaten path. And like Gordon goes internationally after the Joker. And there's like this secret cabal that provides
Don't tell me
refuge.
too much.
No, that's it. That's it. So you'll see when they go, like it takes, that's something I never heard in the regular Batman books, that there's a cabal like overseas that provides lodging or refuse to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gordon finds out through this, the people who hired him and who they are. It's really, really well done. And it's like something I've never read before, or that I thought you could do with Batman's Rogues Gallery.
Well, see, there's another writer who is bringing a fresh perspective on older characters, which I love. Freaking Tiny Onion, he's like writing 9 books right now, and they're all awesome. I don't know that he's capable of writing a bad book. I certainly don't want to be jinxing him, but everything that James Tynion writes, or Tinian, or however we say it, I always call him Tiny Onion. Man, he fires on all cylinders. And I will also say that I found out about the Joker book through viewers who were like, I go, I'm not reading any Joker book because I'm tired. And they go,
Right.
Oh, it's a Jim Gordon story. I'm like, oh, so yeah, I rely on viewers a lot too.
Cool.
Because I don't.
Dude, it's like
I rely on people that are reading singles or are actually up to date, because I'm kind of behind on some things. So when somebody says, no, the Joker book's really good, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to read the third volume of that. I'm trying to finish War World. I'm trying to finish the Realm V book. I'm reading through Absolute Crisis on Infinite Earths and reading that story for the first time. Like, I got all this going on. I'm trying to keep up.
Oh, I can't. Yeah, that's interesting how your mind works. I can't juggle books like that. I have to stick with one book. Although I'm in the middle of JLI and I just read The Night, but generally I try and stick with one book. But I have trouble mixing things in my mind if I try to read more than one book usually.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Is that your reading spot where you are, or do you have it like upstairs?
I have 2 reading spots. There's over here. Let's see if I can show you. This is where the rest of the main bat cave room is.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So those are 2 chairs and the spinner rack that my wife.
That spinner rack is so awesome.
Yeah, that's the best birthday present ever. And that's
I see you have a giant sentinel too. That's cool.
Yeah, and then I've also got Galactus over there.
Okay.
Oh man.
And also Jake from the Brave and the Boys helped me get a really great deal on a turntable and speakers. So I've got my music from my vinyl collection down here too. So I read in these chairs, but I also read upstairs in the family room.
Dude, that's
nice.
That's a wonderful setup you got there, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice.
I was granted 2 rooms down here and I'm pretty happy with them.
Right. That's like your basement, like that's a basement, like finished basement. Okay. That's so cool.
My wife gets the rest of the house, but I get the basement.
That's the deal. That's the deal that I have. Only I'm in the attic.
Cool.
We've got a converted attic, so I'm upstairs, and then the rest of the house is like what normal people do.
Right, exactly.
Well, Jess,
I really enjoyed talking with you guys. This was great. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for becoming part of the Sheehan is Dead comics family. So,
yeah, well, we've had. Is this the 3rd time you've been on? 2nd, 3rd?
Unofficially, it's a 3rd time, but
yeah,
it's the 2nd time officially.
Yeah. I had an unofficial barge in on Dave Vine's appearance.
But I'll also email you my address and you let me know if the coconut comes.